surprised y'all this morning, didn't I? It's going to be a very eventful day. There's a lot going on in Pennsylvania today, particularly Erie, Pennsylvania, my hometown. I'm going to get to all of that. I want y'all to come in here. I got a great little story for y'all. I spoke about this prior on this channel. I spoke about it when it happened, and I was scared then. And listening to this story about this 19-year-old who disappeared. His name is Kaydin Black. It restored the fear again in me like it just happened. So we're gonna talk about the sundown towns of Pennsylvania. And ironically, there was a couple of other videos attached to this Kaden Black story, and it spoke about the solar eclipse, which is today, and the path of totality. Erie, Pennsylvania is directly in the path of totality and reputed to be like the best spot in the United States to watch the solar eclipse. There's probably 150, according to the newspaper, 150 to 200,000 people visiting Erie, Pennsylvania today to watch the solar eclipse. It ain't nothing that interests me all like that, but I'm just paying attention to the community in the news and world news and how big they trying to make this situation. If you black and you ain't no scientist or nothing like that, I don't really know why it will interest anybody all like that. But it's apparently a big deal to somebody. It's a big deal to people, I guess. Anyway, let me explain to y'all what the path of totality is. The path of totality is the parts of the United States. It's a section of the United States starting from Mexico, venturing up into San Antonio, Texas, Austin, Dallas, to Little Rock, to Indianapolis, Indiana, to Cleveland, Ohio, Erie, Pennsylvania, Buffalo, Rochester, Vermont, and Montreal, Canada. The path of totality is the places in the United States where the solar eclipse can be viewed. And attached to this story about this kid named Kaden Black, I'm gonna go into that, and I'm gonna go into the sundown towns. Attached to this story was a white lady who made a video. It's on YouTube, and she was explaining that black people be aware of traveling to go see the solar eclipse, because the path of totality, it goes through a lot of the sections of the United States that have sundown towns. And she pointed out Illinois, and she named Effingham, Salem, and Benton, Illinois as three well-known sundown towns, right? For y'all who don't know, a sundown town is essentially a geographic location that's probably dominated and populated by white supremacists. In a nutshell, it ain't no black folks there. It ain't no people of color there. Danger zone. And attached to that story was a story about a truck driver, a random truck driver, and some truck drivers in my chat, they've spoke about sundown towns too. But this truck driver, out of all the places that he could speak about his experiences with a sundown town, it was Pennsylvania. The same state where Kaden Black disappeared. He's still without a trace. In the same state that I had my encounter with the sundown towns. Anyway, let's talk about Kaden Black briefly. Kaden Black was a 19-year-old kid. He disappeared December 18th, 2022. In a section of Pennsylvania called Wrightsville, PA. It's in York County. The population there is about 2,200. Kaden Black was biracial, of course, because it ain't no niggas out there. His father probably got to fucking with his mom in college or some shit like that. This is how niggas this is how niggas end up in parts unknown in Pennsylvania, probably through college and shit like that. Anyway, he disappeared in York County. There was a alleged incident that he had with a bus driver, school bus driver, where he was assaulted. His mother and his father separated. He had a black father. His mom was white. His mom relocated to Maryland because she got a promotion at her job. Kaden grew up in Wrightsville, and he didn't want to relocate to Maryland with his mom, so he asked to stay in Wrightsville with his father, who was black. Boom. Him and his father start butting heads. Kaden leaves to go stay with a white family, some of his white friends and shit. And at that point, he disappeared. And this is something that we're often warned about growing up. We black people, black boys and shit. Of course, you know, the Emmett Till situation. It just puts something in your mother's spirit where they warn you about being by yourself amongst white people. I got friends that I grew up playing sports with, white, got schoolmates, classmates I went to school with, white. I never felt no danger around them, but I ain't never chose to like be by myself in their element. You know what I'm saying? You know, like going to like barbecues in the woods and cookouts and shit like that. I ain't never did no stupid shit like that. And I don't advise nobody else to do it. Because the friends that you have from school, or you might have a friend or associate that you're safe with, but his friends, the other people that might be there, they might not be all the way comfortable with black people, or they might be racist and shit like that. So in a nutshell, you gotta, you know, look out for yourself. And I never chose to like put myself in any like detriment like that. But the title on this Kaden Black disappearance video was Sundown. It said Sundown Town. And that's what made me, when I listened to his story and how he disappeared, I immediately became frightened again, because I had an incident with the Sundown Town, and ironically, it was in Pennsylvania, and ironically, it was kind of like in this same area, somewhat, right? They say that Wrightsville, Pennsylvania, is in York County somewhere. That's like on the, if you're looking at the map, it's probably on the right side of Harrisburg, the southeast side of Harrisburg or something like that. Anyway, he disappeared without a trace. They suspect, you know, according to a lot of the clues tied to this case, it point back to the guy that he was living with, his white friend or whatever, who sold his car after a few months. Someone who would do that, who would sell your car because it was in his name some type of way. That's kind of an indication that he not coming back. You know what I'm saying? So that made this guy a suspect. And also, after he disappeared, when they went to do an investigation, they got the internet records from this guy's house, this white guy named Chris, from his house. And Kaden Black, his phone, after he disappeared, his phone attached itself to the internet. So that was an indication that even after he was supposed to have disappeared, his phone somehow connected to the internet. So they're saying that maybe he went back in the house and never came back out. When shit like this happened in this day and age, we immediately start to think about organ trafficking, sex trafficking and shit like that, but mainly the organ shit. I was watching a show where there's a billionaire, and I forget his name, but he was trying to create some type of chemistry or some type of chemical or some type of substance that will give him eternal life and that will extend his life. Like, he didn't want to die. He wanted people to freeze him and a bunch of other shit and bring him back to life. Or, oh, when he dies, they're gonna freeze him until they find a scientific method to bring him back to life. But whatever the case, this billionaire, he felt that the um the genetic ingredient he needed was found in black people and shit. You know what I'm saying? And he said mainly black women, but that alone will show you or tell you that black people's organs and shit like that is in demand, right? And they will kill for this shit. But anyway, let me go back to y'all can go look up the story of Kaydin Black. He disappeared in Wrightsville, Pennsylvania. His name is spelled Kaydin Black. You look it up. It's gonna pop up in several stories about his disappearance, but they haven't found him. But anyway, while researching this or fucking with this story, this white lady made a video talking about the path of totality, and she was saying, black people, if you plan on going and fucking with this solar eclipse thing, beware of where the fuck you at, because the path of totality goes through a lot of like deserted areas or places that will contain sundown towns. And she named Effingham, Illinois, Salem, Illinois, and Benton, Illinois. Right? Boom. Attached to that video was a story that a black truck driver told about his experience in a sundown town. He said he felt like he was in 1953. And he said I don't know, maybe he got lost or something, but he said he pulled over to speak to or ask direction from, he said the guy looked perfectly normal looking white guy. He said he pulled over and asked him which direction should he go or something like that. And the guy told him, do you know where you at? There's not very many people like you in this, in this area and shit like that. And he said it took him a couple minutes to understand what the fuck dude was saying and shit. And he was in a sundown town situation. So when asked about the geographic location of where this happened at, he said Pennsylvania. And I'm like, damn. Kaden disappeared in Pennsylvania. The truck driver had his encounter with sundown towns of Pennsylvania, and I had my own encounter. And I'm gonna share it with y'all. I spoke about this before on this platform, right? Boom. I won't say faces of death, but I believe I came in contact with death directly 3 times in my life. These 3 times I'll never forget by the way that it made me feel. I was very alarmed. One time I was a shorty and I was in my front yard. We had a tree and my sister had like a jump rope or something. And we hung the rope on this branch of the tree and we kind of used to swing on this rope like I'm a little kid. And this rope was kind of hung up on a tree so we could like swing on it. It was cool to like swing on it. You could swing around the tree a little bit. And I remember this day vividly. I never forget it. It was the first time that I felt I came close to death. I was standing on a rock, like a little boulder and shit in the yard. And for some reason, I'm swinging on this rope. Something in my childish mind say, put the motherfucker around your neck. So I put it around my neck. And I'm just fucking around, I'm a kid and shit. And the rock that I was standing on, I kind of like lost my footing. So I'm in the yard about damn near hung. And I remember grabbing the rope, my feet is like kicking and shit. And I remember like trying to grab this motherfucking rope to keep this motherfucker from killing me and shit. And while I was kicking my feet, I got my footing back on this little brick, and I immediately got this motherfucker off my neck. I'm like, man, I'm stupid as fuck. And I remember my uncle had just walked by going into the house, and I couldn't even call his name. I couldn't even call his name. And that was I knew that I had just escaped death or near death. You know what I'm saying? I remember that vividly. Boom, another time I was going to New York, and normally traveling to New York City and shit, I would always travel on Interstate 80, right? For whatever reason, I would normally travel through Interstate 80. I got a ride to the city one time by a smoker, and he went the back way through Buffalo, Rochester, Syracuse, and all of that shit. This was kind of like the long way going to the city. And I remember when we got like up around Woodbury Commons and shit, it was snowing. It was snowing. It was like slush and shit on the ground. And this motherfucker, like I said, I was riding with a smoker. This motherfucker was speeding, and he tried to like cut in front of a car and just did some shit that was uncalled for under the circumstances of the weather and shit. Like, and we started to fucking fishtail. It was a motherfucking semi behind us, and we fishtailing, man, about to damn near turn sideways. And this motherfucking semis and shit is coming. And right at the last second, the car straightened up. And I was like, oh my God. I went crazy on this motherfucker, right? And I knew that was the second time that I probably escaped near death or near death, right? Boom. The third time was the story that I told on here before a couple of years ago. I was coming from Philadelphia. In my mind, geographically, I know where I'm going, right? As soon as you get outside of Philadelphia, you start seeing the signs and shit of the neighboring little cities, you know, Redden, Lancaster, Allentown. I seen the Allentown sign. I got a girl there at the time that I ain't seen in a minute. I'm like, man, I'm about to stop in Allentown, get some pussy, and have this bitch go get me some weed before I continue my route. So I did that, you know what I'm saying? Went over there, knocked her down, smoked a couple blunts, got back on the road. In my mind, I know where I'm going because I'm traveling from the eastern side of Pennsylvania to western Pennsylvania. And in my mind, it's a straight shot, right? After I done drove a little bit, mind you, I'm smoking blunts. After I done drove a little bit, I'm saying to myself, man, you about to fucking get lost. So I turned on the GPS somewhere near probably the middle of the state. This motherfucking GPS, like I was trying to get back to the main interstate or wherever, this motherfucking GPS started taking me through the motherfucking woods. Seriously. And like I said, I was smoking blunts, so I wasn't paying attention to how much gas was in the whip. And all of the panic started to set in at once, but this is when it got serious. I'm riding, and this shit is turning deserted, like a forest and shit like that, like deserted, fucking deserted. I'm not seeing nothing. Cornfields, the terrain, it immediately went flat. It turned into Little House on the fucking Prairie, right? And I ain't got no license at the time. My license is suspended. And I'm running out of gas, and I'm saying to myself, you don't want to have no encounter with the fucking police where you at right now. You do not want to have no encounters with the fucking police. And I'm running out of gas. And I'm saying to myself, like, I'm worried like a motherfucker. I'm thinking about my mom, how I'm going to explain this shit. I'm going to be a disappearance. I'm going to be without a trace. I'm like, man, what the fuck? So I'm like, I can't get caught out here in this shit. Like, I have to get back to civilization. So I'm stepping on the gas. I'm punching that shit. And also in my mind, if you get pulled over, if you have any encounter with the police, you're going to fucking jail or worse. It was just in my head that if you have an encounter with the police out here and you ain't got no license, you can't trust these people to just arrest you and take you to jail. Like, you're gonna be without a trace, this is going to be a without a trace situation. But anyway, as I'm riding, shit got totally deserted. It ain't even no cars out there but me. I'm scared as a motherfucker, man. I'm going through winding roads, and I believe that the area that I was in was called Shamokin, Pennsylvania, right? And your intuition, your everything inside your body, you know, God created our bodies perfect and shit. You got your own built-in alarm. I'm alarmed like a motherfucker, right? And as I'm driving, again, I don't see anything. But the road, I start seeing these piles of what looked like mud on the road. It looked like it was piles of mud, different spots on the road and shit. And I'm like, yo, what the fuck is this shit on the road and shit? It was piles of shit. It was big ass piles of shit, piles of horse shit. I'm like, oh, that's shit. Like, right as I detected it, it was shit. Here come the horse-drawn carriages. Like Little House on the Prairie. Real horse-drawn carriages, man. Motherfuckers like slavery days and shit. Like, I'm like, what the fuck is this? I know it ain't no niggas. You wouldn't believe that this place is like this right outside of Philadelphia. I swear to God. I swear to God. So, I'm like, damn. This is very, 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 very fucking scary, man. And as I get out into these woods and shit, you know the next thing that happened? The GPS start buffering because it ain't no fucking Wi-Fi and internet and shit out here and shit. So now I'm on my own. But I saying to myself, you better just keep driving. Like, you know, you better keep driving. Like, in my mind, I know that I'm driving west in Pennsylvania. You better just keep driving, nigga, till this shit clear up. I kept going. I remember it being a big river on the left side of me, a body of water and shit. And I know from being in this home vision quest that wherever there's water, there's gonna be life. You know what I'm saying? Animals, people in canoes and shit like that. So that's something that's in my mind, but I'm still lost. I ended up making it to this, you know, little fuckboy gas station to get some motherfucking gas. And when I go in there, I'm in the middle of nowhere. It was this fat white girl who was at the cash register, and I could tell that she kind of like fucked with niggas and shit. Like the way she had her lipstick and her makeup. She's white girl. She's country white girl in the middle of nowhere, but she kind of like fucked with niggas, whether it was from TV or maybe whatever the case. She empathized and she was like, "Yo, where you going?" I told her Pittsburgh because that was the direction I was going. That's if I make it to Allegheny County, I know where the fuck I'm at again, right? She was like, drive, you know, take your time, like, you know, make sure you drive carefully and shit. And she was telling me this as I was paying for my gas and shit. And the way she said it to me, I knew exactly what the fuck she was saying. I knew exactly what the fuck she was saying. I knew what she was saying. She was letting me know, yo, you in parts unknown, don't fuck up, don't get arrested, because your ass will disappear. And I'm like, damn. And there was more videos on YouTube describing or saying, do sundown towns still exist? Hell motherfucking yeah, they exist in Pennsylvania, for sure. For sure. I know I didn't drove a lot of places because I'm Gully TV. I didn't drove a lot of places. I done been on trains, places and shit. Like I done traveled a lot of places. And I didn't been places, especially if you rode the train. Like when you like get to the Midwest and shit, that shit like go flat. Like after like, you know, maybe Chicago and shit like that. there's nothing out there. There's nothing the fuck out there. Parts of Ohio, I believe, is like this too. And parts of Ohio is rumored to be like deserted. Like deserted. Ain't nothing there and shit. And anywhere that's deserted is a place that black folks shouldn't be by their motherfucking self, man. There's parts of the United States where the residents there, they don't have no contact. They don't have no contact with black people. They ain't never been around no black people. Don't know black people come through there and shit like that. I done been in jail with guys in the state penitentiary with white guys that you can visibly see. This is a farmer. Wherever this motherfucker come from, this motherfucker's off a farm. Like they be spitting tobacco and shit. Like they still got the same traits. They just a convict now. And I noticed that there's places where there ain't no black people in the United States outside of like major cities. In some parts in between, you'll find people of color, but a big part of the United States is fucking deserted. And it ain't no niggas there. It ain't no niggas there. And you do not want to be caught in these fucking places. I'm here to tell you firsthand, yes, they fucking exist. I drove through one myself. This boy, Kaden Black, who disappeared December 18th, 2022, I believe his parents' fatal mistake was allowing him, and he's biracial. In their eyes, he's still a nigga. He's of color. He had an afro, curly afro and shit like that. It was a mistake for them to let him move in with this white family in the middle of no fucking where, because in these environments, even law enforcement be in on it. Even they be racist and shit. Like I told you, I didn't want to have no encounter with the police. Ironically, in this town, Wrightsville, when the case was brought to the police chief knew Kaydin Black, because the police chief was also once the track coach for the local high school and shit. This is how small these places is and shit. And he totally disappeared without a trace. And they failed to properly investigate this case because of absence of people of color there. There's no Negroes there. There's no niggas there. My man said Harrisburg, PA is surrounded by white towns for the most part. That's the area I was in. I was in like Shamoke, and I believe that's where I was at because it scared me so much. I went and like looked at the map and tried to like estimate where the fuck I was at when every hair on my body stood up, my heart started racing, I was sweating. That experience changed the way I travel. Like if I'm driving and shit like that, I send my location through the iPhone to several people in my family and shit. For real. My mom, my brother, shorty, like, so it's like I'm traveling, but they traveling with me. They can, keep track of me by way of GPS and shit like that. That was the only thing that I could come up with. But yes, sundown towns fucking exist. They are white supremacists dominated geographical locations. Very, very dangerous, and they in the United States, and based on everything that I read and listened to this morning, Pennsylvania, especially down around between Philly and Harrisburg, is highly fucking populated by these types of towns. My man said, that's smart. I did the same thing. I'm 36. Our cab drive through a sundown town in Florida by accident. Like you said, that same eerie feeling we all got. He said, what do I think about the solar eclipse? I spoke about that briefly because the white lady who made the video warning black people to avoid sundown towns while trying to see the solar eclipse. The states in the path of totality, these are the states where the solar eclipse is most visible. It starts out in Mexico, goes through San Antonio, Texas, Austin, Texas, Dallas to Little Rock, Arkansas, from Little Rock to Indiana, the Indianapolis area, to Cleveland, to Erie, Pennsylvania, to Buffalo, which is also on Lake. Them there's three cities on Lake Erie: Cleveland, Erie, and Buffalo. From Buffalo to Rochester, and from Rochester to Vermont, and ultimately Montreal, Canada. It's like that in the Deep South also. It's a bunch of them next door in Ohio. I understand Ohio to be very racist based on the Lucasville riots. In a video that I seen on YouTube some years ago, and it was in an Ohio prison. It was 3 or 4 black guys. I believe they was in a segregation somewhere, but they was allowed to come out for a little rec. They was handcuffed to a table, and they was playing cards and shit. And at the next table was a white guy with a fucking shank. And somehow he was left uncuffed, and he immediately started pouncing on these niggas, man. He was stabbing everybody at the table and shit. Like, these niggas was handcuffed to the table. They couldn't get loose and shit. And he stabbed he was doing some fucking stabbing, but somehow, I don't know, I think they got the whack away from him, or the police came or something. But the fact that they had them niggas handcuffed to that table and they let this cat loose to damn near kill him, let me know what type of shit goes on in Ohio. He said, I remember that shit. That video was wild. I went to IUP. They still have KKK rallies up there in 2003. The police set that up. I believe it. I totally believe everything y'all saying, because I've seen it with my own eyes and I experienced it, this shit. I'm from the Bay Area, out in the Wiley. We have sundown towns in Sonoma County. They were just talking about sundown towns on the Anton Daniels show. I'm from Pittsburgh. They all through Pennsylvania. I'm from Harrisburg, and when I visit my uncle in Dover, Delaware, I didn't have to go to certain spots to be lost. It's all Amish country. Even with GPS, I felt lost. I've spoken about the GPS. Sometimes them joints is real sensitive, and they will take you away from your route. They gonna get you to where you going, but they probably gonna take you away from the route that you're familiar of. And I don't recommend following the GPS in certain instances, because it will save you time. Like, you'll get a notification on your GPS and it'll tell you, do you want to take this detour and shit? You got to make that personal decision whether the fuck it's worth your life taking a detour, because a lot of times they will take you off of the highly populated route and take you through some rural shit. And when it gets you out there amongst them cows and cornfields and shit like that, that's when your life is in danger if you're black. We scrimmaged Shamoke in high school on the bus. We felt the tension, and being some inner city Harrisburg kids, we beat their ass too. Stay on the main roads. Fuck, trying to, shave time off the GPS, man. If it takes you away from the main interstates, which will have rest stops, gas stations, and shit like that, don't do it, because them GPSs will take your ass in the woods where it don't be no gas stations. You can't even determine when the next gas station is going to come, and you can also lose access to your GPS because you in such an isolated region. He said, when that GPS go goofy, screenshot it and send it to your peoples immediately. Sandy Garcia said, once the street lights start disappearing, turn around. I've been in that situation after I had that encounter with the Sundown town. As soon as the shit start looking funky to me, I turn my ass back the fuck around and go back the fucking way that I came until I get back to the general population and shit. Straight up. Conscious Puffer says a trucker in the house. I had some truckers in the chat the last time I brought up this topic. Like I said, I spoke about this when it happened. This was probably like 2 years ago or something like that. And truckers gave accounts of them having encounters in sundown towns almost regularly in the South and shit. It happened to me. The GPS went bananas on a back road. Stay out of West Virginia. I'm glad you said that, because when I got lost, as it was like starting to take me into the middle of nowhere, it was signs saying Charleston, West Virginia, and Wheeling and shit like that. I didn't know West Virginia was that close to Pennsylvania in certain parts of the state. And I know for a fact that you ain't got no business in fucking West Virginia if you black. Like, I know niggas be going out there to hustle and shit. A lot of them niggas end up in a world of fucking trouble, like my man King Odie. He's indicted down there right now. Stay in familiar surroundings. West Virginia is mountains and hillbillies. Facts. I drove in Jersey once and the GPS had me out in the woods. Yeah. Hell yeah. You gotta use your intuition. Like I said, man, all types of alarms start going off in my body. I knew I was someplace I wasn't supposed to be, and I knew that an encounter with the police, sheriff, state police, or anything like that, they wasn't gonna help me. And I knew that I didn't want to. My license was suspended. If you get pulled over with no license, they're gonna take the whip. You're going to fucking jail, and then you got to deal with that. Ain't no telling where they gonna take you to when they handcuff you and pull off with your ass. Ain't no telling where they gonna fucking take you and shit. You know what I'm saying? And then they got you be out in the country, and they have stories of people taking bodies to pig farms to be disposed of. Like if they whack you when they go and drop your ass off amongst some fucking pigs and shit, the pigs are gonna eat your ass until you gone. I've seen that on fucking Netflix and shit like that. Women was disappearing and shit, and they couldn't fucking find them until somehow they ended up at this fucking pig farm, and you know they ate everything except for some of the bones and skulls and shit like that, and that's how they was able to determine what the fuck happened. I was scared driving a box truck on E farms and mountains for miles, no phone signal, and not a gas station in sight. After that happened, I started making sure that whenever I pull over, if I'm driving, like if I pull over to eat or something like that, I got the gas back up. I don't give a fuck if you at a half tank, you think you cool. Nah, get that shit back full, because you don't know how the trip gonna go. Like it's in your best interest to keep a full tank of gas, because if you conk out and parts unknown, man, it could be hectic. It could be a disappearing act. It only takes pigs a few hours to eat a person. Good morning. I remember when I was in high school, I went down there for a football combine at West Virginia University. The waitress asked, "What are you guys doing down here? Whatever it is, make sure you do it and get out of town." Yeah, they'll some people give you warnings and shit. Probably females, because they got that, that maternal instinct in them. But males, white racist males, they be bloodthirsty, straight up. So you got to make sure that your gas tank is filled up, man, because you do not want to be in a situation that I was in. Like I knew I punched the fucking gas. I'm like, man, I can't just disappear in this foliage and these weeds and shit like that. Like, nobody's gonna explain my story. It is gonna be on unsolved mysteries and shit like that. That's why all black citizens should be armed when they travel, no matter what. If you got license to travel with a pistol, you blessed. If you got felonies, you know not to be doing no shit like that. I'm a box trucker and been through the same type of thing in Arkansas. Plan your trip, watch your route, don't drive blind. I don't advise anybody that's black again to, be fucking around in certain parts of the country. Yes, they got places in the United States to this day where niggas ain't allowed and you'll disappear, man. There's people disappearing daily. They got a lot of, documentaries and shit like that on Paramount, Netflix, and all of that about people disappearing. And in regards to black people, they be wanting our organs straight up. What was the youth's name again? Kaydin Black, Wrightsville, Pennsylvania. The population was only 2,200. After watching the story, I like to believe that Kaden was killed probably by the white guy he was staying with, Chris. He sold his truck. When he disappeared, he sold his truck. Like, if you expecting your friend to be found or some shit like that, you're not gonna sell his vehicle. When he did that, that let everybody know in his mind and heart, he knew that he wasn't coming back for the vehicle, so he sold it, and that made him a suspect and shit. I was reading in the comments that during the course of the situation with Kaden's disappearance, this guy re-cemented his driveway or re-cemented the cement in his garage or something like that. That also made people suspicious because this boy Kaden, he disappeared without a trace. Kaden's mom, who was white, she ended up finding out that this family that he was staying with, they had a rural property somewhere in Pennsylvania in parts unknown that the police failed to go search or look at because, again, the police in these small municipalities and shit, they be racist too. They don't have any contact with niggas, so they don't. It's fucked up. Anywhere about 1 hour outside of major cities are all similar to West Virginia. I heard they called a section of Pennsylvania between Philly and Pittsburgh, Pennsatucky. I could believe that. I told you I seen the horse-drawn carriages and shit like that, man. It's like a lot of Amish people and shit. There's even a town in Pennsylvania that became deserted. It's called Centralia. You can look this up. It became deserted because the motherfucking town was on fire. There was a coal mine. This is a town built on top of coal mines. And that section of Pennsylvania, like over there by Philly, like right when you get outside of Philly, Coal Township, Camp Hill, where them prisons and shit is at, them was all coal regions and shit like that. But anyway, Centralia was a little town that was basically on fire. They had to evacuate the motherfucker somehow. I don't know how it reignited, but beneath this town was on fucking fire, and the fire had been burning for hundreds and hundreds of years and shit like that. They had to totally destroy and wipe out this town, but you could look it up. Centralia, Pennsylvania. It's still burning. Yeah. I thought that was crazy as a motherfucker that could happen. But even when watching the story about Centralia, I'm like, man, black people don't got no business in no shit like that. You know what I'm saying? He said, Gully is called Ashland. We went on a field trip there in high school. Centralia is where they got the idea for Silent Hill from. I thought that Centralia was a very creepy story. Very creepy. Especially the part when the fire was burning beneath the gas station. It was a gas station that ended up having to be deserted because the guy that ran a gas station went and took the temperature one day of his pumps. And had he not dismantled the gas station, that motherfucker was going to explode because it was a fire burning directly beneath the gas tanks. He said, I seen docs on Centralia. Yeah, real crazy. Where should you not go? Don't go away from main interstates. Stay on main interstates. Shit can get deserted. I was driving from Florida one time and shit got deserted. Like, shit got deserted, man. You just start thinking about your safety and shit, man. You realize it ain't nothing out here, man. Like some people live out there, farmers and shit like that, but it ain't no niggas. It ain't no black people. People with no understanding. They not gonna help you and shit. Like, and to call on the police, that probably is the fatality. That's probably the last thing that you want to do because it's well known that a lot of white supremacists, KKK and shit like that, is in law enforcement. He said, I'm from Pennsylvania, Coatesville to be exact. They don't understand you. Black people still got to use the green book. What is that? Maps? The green book. What is the green book? Y'all hit me to that. What is that? A place not to, a book of places not to go? What about when you drive out of town to different states? You have no choice but to drive through spooky danger zones. Nah. When you traveling, man, you can stay on the main interstate. The situation with me happened because of GPS. I'm telling you, had I cut the GPS on when I was in Philly or leaving Philly, I would have went back. I would have went back north to Interstate 80, and then that's a direct shot. Like it's a main interstate, it's activity. I didn't, whatever is below Interstate 80, I don't know if it's 81. Somebody in here said 322. Somebody said 313. It can get fucking dark. It can get spooky. And it was starting to, the sun was going down. Like this shit, I knew in my mind I was someplace I wasn't supposed to fucking be. And I knew I was in a bad situation, for real. Red and PA is a sundown town. In between Pittsburgh and Erie, look crazy as fuck at night. You can feel that shit. The Green Book was for black families traveling across country to stay out of racist towns. First time I heard about it, I think that's a book that we probably should invest in. But you could take my word for it in regards to staying on the main interstates. The GPS will take your ass. It's going to take you to where you're going, but it probably will take you off course and through the woods and shit like that. I'm telling you. And when you get in these deserted places, you're going to feel like you're going to kind of like panic and you're going to hit the gas because you want to hurry up and get back to fucking civilization. But in the process of stepping on the gas, if you get pulled over by the police, you in bad shape. The pull-up champ, I appreciate your super chat. So what exactly is supposed to take place today? The solar eclipse is something that don't really interest black people. I know it happens every 20 or 30 years or something like that, and it's the first time it's happened in a long time. Where I'm at, Erie, Pennsylvania, where I'm from and shit, it's in the path of totality. So according to the news and statistics and shit, 150 to 200,000 people is gonna be in this region. Like right now, hotels on the water, on the lake and shit like that, on Lake Erie, hotel rooms is like $800 or some shit for a day and shit. You know what I'm saying? And anything on Lake Erie, you gotta, it's on the path of totality. That's Cleveland, Erie, and Buffalo. It starts in Mexico and travels through Texas, extends northeast and passes through 13 states. You know what I mean? I'm a trucker. Anywhere going 322 west in Pennsylvania is dangerous. I had a similar experience on my way to Pittsburgh from New York, me and my homeboy. The back roads in the neighboring towns near Harrisburg are mad spooky. The solar eclipse will begin massive human sacrifice. Hey, man. It got something to do with the moon and shit, man. I associated moons with werewolves and shit like that, so I don't think it's anything that involves black people and shit. You know what I'm saying? They gotta wear these fucking glasses and shit. They got these 3D glasses and shit that they selling for you to look at it and shit. I don't want to look at anything that I need special glasses to look at. Like, everything ain't for everybody. Black people shouldn't make that a part of their reality and shit. Like, you ain't been looking at the moon and the sun and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? Don't start doing it today. That's my personal opinion, for real. Like, it might fuck with your vision. They got these special glasses. They even selling knockoffs, but just be careful. I believe this shit all is gonna start happening once it gets dark. But just follow the news and shit. Some people are saying the freaky weather that's going on right now, like they just had an earthquake in New York and storms in different parts of the country. Some people attribute this to this upcoming eclipse. I know they said that when it happens, the temperature drops in certain places and shit. So, boom, 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 boom. My man said, I got my welding hood ready. He said, the sun don't hurt us. It'll hurt anybody if you're looking at it directly. When will it be light again and how long? Government might have a different agenda. I don't know. I'm going to go about my day regularly, Jim. You know, handling my affairs at Gully TV, shipping packages and shit, and then probably get indoors and shit. They shutting down like interstates and streets, and like they shutting shit down up here. Like Erie, Pennsylvania is a place where this eclipse is. They saying it's the place where it's the most visible. I don't know if that's because it's situated on a lake, but I know that 150 to 200,000 people will be in northwestern Pennsylvania trying to see it. If you are in the path of totality and you black and this shit interests you, be mindful that the path of totality runs through a lot of states with sundown towns. Three towns that was mentioned in Illinois is Ellingham, Salem, and Benton, Illinois. So if you Negro, stay your ass away from that shit. They deep in Niagara Falls right now. That Niagara Falls is like, I think like an hour and a half away or something like that. Boom, boom. My man said I'm white. Fuck the solar eclipse. I'm gonna look at it from inside. When the government says to do something, I do the opposite. I agree. So I just wanted to kick it with y'all about this. Of course, the path of totality going through sundown towns, and I shared with y'all the story of Kaydin Black. He's 19 years old, disappeared December 18th, 2022. This disappearance is still fairly fresh, but without a trace. From Wrightsville, Pennsylvania, population 2,200. Any place where it's only 2,200 people, you ain't gonna find no niggas. Anyway, I gotta get up out of here. I got lost in Amish town in Pennsylvania too, leaving Baltimore. The GPS took me through the woods. I saw cornfields and a Mason-Dixon sign. A lot of American flags and horse-drawn carriages, very scary. Me too. Make sure y'all subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you get the top bell so you get the notifications, and follow me on Instagram at I am Gully TV _. Go to the website, get knitted up, get your knittage. Make sure you go to the website and get right, man. I got sweaters and all types of fly shit over there. The seasons are changing. Be prepared for the relaunch of Dribble God Athletics and shit. I got the fly basketball shorts. Anyway, it's time for me to go. Y'all can catch me on the Dribble Podcast, available on all streaming sites. Pillmatic 2 on the way. It's done. We about to send it to get mixed. Y'all gonna get that shit real soon. Make sure y'all get that on all streaming sites. Peace.